Coming up to 20 minutes away from 8 here on the Radio Wammo Breakfast. Time to stare into space with Dylan Storey. He's always staring into space. Good morning, Dylan.
Good morning. Yeah, always staring into space one way or another, eh?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Today's staring into space, looking to see whether or not there's any debris coming down on our heads.
Yeah, so I guess the topic on most people's minds is the NASA UARS Satellite, which has been decommissioned in 2005. It's been in a declining orbit ever since then, and they reckon it's going to enter the atmosphere. The latest prediction is tonight, American time. So that's I think that's basically about 10 in the morning, our time tomorrow.
Okay. What was the satellite doing? I mean, what did it used to do? What was its purpose?
Well, it's UARS stands for Upper Atmosphere Research Satellite. So it's up there basically studying the atmosphere and most particularly the ozone layer. It was launched in 1991 by Space Shuttle Discovery, and that was sort of at the height of the ozone scare, which seems to have toned down a little bit now. But it was basically sort of measuring the UV light that came in from the sun and using atmosphere occultation to do that. So looking at the sun both directly and then when it was at the sides, when the satellite was around the side of the Earth, that would look at it through the Earth's atmosphere, and that helped it measure the UV content of the sun, and then measure that up against the reflected UV from the Earth.
Okay. Cool.
And all sorts of other things, but that was one of its main tasks.
Okay, and so it's been decommissioned. Now, NASA say that these satellites come down all the time. What makes this one so special?
Well, it's particularly big. It's about the size of a bus, which, I mean, yeah, satellites come down all the time. And, but yeah, this one's particularly big, and that means that part of it is going to survive the descent, the friction of the atmosphere. It's going to break into pieces, but it's likely that some of those pieces will actually reach the surface of Earth, and several of them will scatter around a 500-kilometre area.
Right.
And they're going to be travelling quite fast, about 107 metres per second. So that means that, you know, when they hit the ground, they're going to do a reasonable amount of damage. I mean, we're not talking about like a massive crater or anything, but you certainly wouldn't want your building to be in the way of it. And so they've given the possible area it's going to spread over, the probable area that the debris is going to spread over is 500 kilometres. But the thing is that they've actually got no idea where that 500 kilometres is.
No idea at all, because normally they're very precise with these kinds of things and know where stuff is going to come down.
That's right, and I'm not actually sure why why they've lost control. I can't get a straight answer. As to why this one is different. It's possibly due to the size, but something's gone out of control a little bit, and they're not entirely sure. But one thing that's quite amusing when I was researching it is that most of the press releases say, predicted to not hit North America.
Because that's all that matters, right?
Yeah. So we've established that, so yeah.
Will it be northern?
Fall somewhere.
I mean, will it be in the northern hemisphere?
No, they're saying the satellite's orbit is between 57 degrees north and 57 degrees south, which is basically most of the inhabited world.
Yeah.
Excluding the polar regions, and that's just because that's where it orbits. If you imagine the globe, it's kind of orbiting on a tilted plane, so it never actually crosses the polar regions.
Right.
It just goes over the sides. And so imagine you're seeing a photo of the Earth, and it's orbiting diagonally in front and then behind. And then as the world turns, that position changes. So, you know, it'll do several orbits it's over the Pacific, it will slowly move over New Zealand, Australia, and so on. That's the sort of way it moves. So, what's happening to it is that it got its slow down rocket fired in 2005. That means its speed has been slowing down, so it lowers its orbit. And it is in a frictionless environment, so it keeps going, but it's not 100% frictionless. So there is little scatterings of atmosphere up there, little, just tiny particles, which are enough to, over time, slow it down. And as it slows down, it gets lower and lower, and the drag effect gets more. So it's very hard to predict exactly when the friction of the atmosphere is going to slow it down exactly to the speed where it's going to start its tumble into the atmosphere and then burn up. So normally there's kind of a bit of fuel left over to fire one rocket burst to make that controlled, but for some reason it's not controlled in this one. So
what if a piece puts a hole in my roof? Who do I call? Who do I have up about that?
Well, I think NASA would be they own it.
They got a hotline?
I'm not sure.
You know,
800 NASA?
It seems to be, my point there is they just seem to be like, oh, whatever's, we put this thing up there, we've got no idea where it's coming down. It might hit something, might not. Yeah, not really our problem, really. So that's the feeling I get.
Yeah, they do. Well, they've actually said it's got a 1 in 3,200 chance of hitting somebody.
Well, that's pretty high, isn't it?
But to me sounds pretty high, yeah.
Haven't you got...
I think your chances of that are a lot higher than winning lotto if you buy a lotto ticket.
Yeah.
More chance of that than being by a car. It's 1 in 2,500.
1 in 2... What, sorry, what? Get on the microphone over there.
Oh. Yesterday we were having a similar discussion at work, and someone brought up that the chances of getting hit by a car is about 1 in 2,500. So more chance of being hit by a car than... But people get hit by cars every day, so maybe...
And probably less chance of being hit by lightning.
Yeah. No, I think more chance of being hit by lightning. I think I read somewhere more chance of being hit by lightning than being hit by a piece of satellite.
I'm just making up stats now. Gosh, well, so 10 a.m. tomorrow, look towards the sky. If you see anything
wear
burning
a crash helmet.
Yeah. Be paranoid.
But would you see it coming? Because it's going so fast.
Well, you'd see it coming. Yeah, you'd see it burning up, right, in the atmosphere.
Yeah. There's a cool video up that NASA's posted of tracking the Hayabusa satellite as it re-entered the Earth. They're tracking it from high orbit, but it's really cool. You can see it flying through the atmosphere and breaking apart.
Oh, cool.
And then the part that comes to land sort of continues.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a chance it would be like a kind of a bright shooting star.
Yeah, and you'd see it in daylight as well, wouldn't you?
Would you be inwardly a little bit disappointed if it didn't land in a populated area?
Yeah, I think so.
It's slightly evil, isn't it? Cool. All right. Well, apart from things the size of buses flying through the atmosphere, what can you go see at the Auckland Stardome?
The Black Hole show is on at 7 o'clock every night, which is all about black holes, obviously, and a bit about what they are. And that's usually followed by a kind of a live fly out through the universe and a presenter talk on space and the wider universe. 8 p.m, the Sky Tonight show, all about what you can see in the sky tonight. And then weather dependent is telescopes. So Saturn's actually getting a bit low to be seen. It's kind of behind the building now at the Stardome.
Yeah.
And we're in that sort of lull between Saturn and Jupiter. So Saturn sets in the west, Jupiter will be rising in the east. Jupiter's not quite high enough to see in the early evening yet. It's rising at about 10:30. So there's other things to see through the telescopes, various clusters and things.
Cool. All right. Sounds good.
Of course, lots of information about space.
That's at the Auckland Stardome Observatory. Thanks very much, Dylan. Twitter.com/Dylan Storey to continue the conversation over there. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Wammo.
Bye.